The arrival. The alert came at 3:47 a.m., screaming through every communication channel on Earth simultaneously. Dr. Maya Chen jerked awake in her apartment, her tablet blazing with emergency notifications. She fumbled for her glasses, heart pounding as she read the message that would change everything. Unidentified vessels detected. Worldwide emergency protocol active. 20 minutes later, Maya stood in the emergency response center beneath Geneva, surrounded by military personnel and scientists. The massive display showed them, dozens of ships, sleek and dark, arranged in perfect formation above Earth's atmosphere. Dr. Chen, thank God you're here. Captain James Rivera approached, his uniform crisp despite the early hour. Maya had worked with him before on theoretical first contact scenarios. She'd always appreciated his calm demeanor and sharp mind, though she'd never admitted how his presence made her pulse quicken. What do we know? She asked, forcing herself to focus. They're broadcasting. James gestured to the communications station. Well, you should hear it yourself. The voice that filled the room was deep, resonant, and dripping with theatrical menace. Humans of Earth. We are the sovereign collective of ZYN. Your primitive world now falls under our dominion. You will surrender all governing bodies immediately. Resistance will result in your complete annihilation. You have one rotation of your planet to comply. Silence filled the room for exactly 3 seconds. Then someone snorted. Maya pressed her hand to her mouth, but couldn't stop the smile. Around the room, other faces showed similar expressions, not fear, but barely suppressed amusement. Did they just? James started. Give us an ultimatum like a bad movie villain. Maya finished. Yes. Yes, they did. General Morrison, however, wasn't smiling. This is a genuine threat. Those ships have weapons we can't identify. With respect, General, Maya said, any species capable of faster-than-light travel who opens with threats instead of dialogue is either desperate or incompetent. Possibly both. The broadcast continued. We have conquered 73 worlds. Your weapons are meaningless. Your defenses are laughable. Submit, or face obliteration. 73 worlds and they still need to conquer more. James murmured, standing close enough that Maya caught the scent of his cologne. That's not an empire. That's a protection racket. Maya nodded, acutely aware of his proximity. We need to respond carefully. But not with fear. Agreed. James met her eyes, and something unspoken passed between them. Let's show them what humans are really made of. Within the hour, Earth's response was ready. Not surrender. Not aggression. Simply, no. The alien fleet's confusion was almost audible across the void of space. Cultural collision. The alien response came swiftly, though not in the way anyone expected. A single shuttle descended, landing in a secured field outside Geneva. Maya stood beside James, part of the diplomatic team chosen for first contact. Her hands trembled slightly, and she felt James's fingers brush against hers, deliberate, reassuring. Ready, he whispered. As I'll ever be, she replied, her heart racing for reasons that had nothing to do with the aliens. The shuttle door opened with a hiss of pressurized air. The being that emerged was tall, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. His features were sharp, angular, and his eyes held an unsettling intensity. He wore elaborate armor that seemed more ceremonial than practical. I am Ambassador Zuandar, he announced, his voice amplified somehow. I come to accept your surrender personally. Commander Arya Stone, standing to Maya's left, actually laughed. That's not why we invited you down. Zuandar's expression shifted, confusion, then indignation. You dare mock the sovereign collective? We dare to talk like equals, Maya said, stepping forward. James moved with her, a solid presence at her side. You want to conquer Earth? Fine. First, prove you understand us. The next hours were surreal. Ziwandar attempted to demonstrate his civilization's superiority through holographic displays of technology and conquered worlds. Each presentation fell flat. Humans had seen better special effects in movies. When he showed their weapons, Dr. Robert Kim pointed out 3 design flaws within minutes. Impressive power output, Kim said cheerfully, but your energy dispersion is wildly inefficient. And is that cooling system seriously exposed? Ziwandar's shimmer deepened to an angry purple. You cannot comprehend. Oh, we comprehend, Maya interrupted. You're running. Aren't you? The alien's silence was telling. Later, after Ziwandar had stormed back to his shuttle, Maya and James stood on the observation deck. The alien fleet glittered above, beautiful and menacing. You were brilliant today, James said softly. Maya turned to him, suddenly aware of how close they stood. We made him angry. You made him think. James reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was tender, intimate. Maya, I know this isn't the time, but we might not get another time, she finished. Her hand found his. I know. I've wanted to tell you for months. The way you see the world, the way your mind works. He stopped, searching for words. You're extraordinary. Maya's breath caught. James, the moment shattered as alarms blared. Aria's voice crackled through the speakers. We've got incoming. Multiple alien fighters breaking formation. They ran to the command center. The displays showed chaos, smaller alien craft diving toward Earth's atmosphere, but their movements were erratic, desperate. They're not attacking, Maya realized. They're fleeing. Something's chasing them. On the screen, the darkness of space rippled. Something vast and terrible was emerging from behind the moon. Ziwandar's voice burst through communications, no longer pompous but terrified. Humans, please, the Devourers have found us. We came to your world because you were our last hope. We needed your planet, your resources, to run farther. But they are here. And now we will all die. James grabbed Maya's hand. So the invasion was a desperate species trying to survive, Maya whispered, horror and understanding flooding through her. And we just laughed at them. The true enemy had arrived, and suddenly, everything had changed. Understanding through chaos. The command center erupted into controlled chaos. The thing emerging from behind the moon wasn't a ship, it was more like a living darkness, tendrils of shadow reaching across space, consuming light itself. What are we looking at? General Morrison demanded. Maya's fingers flew across her tablet, pulling up the data streaming from every telescope and sensor. James stood behind her, his hand on her shoulder, grounding her. Energy readings are off the scale, Dr. Kim reported, his usual cheerfulness gone. Whatever that is, it's not operating on any physics we understand. Ziwandar's shuttle landed again with a crash that spoke of panic rather than precision. The alien ambassador stumbled out, his shimmer now a sickly gray. Behind him came another figure, smaller, more delicate, with similar features but marked with intricate patterns that suggested age or rank. This is Elder Sira, Ziwandar said, his pride completely stripped away. She leads what remains of our people. 73 worlds, Sira said quietly, her voice like wind through crystals. That is how many we lost to the Devourers. Not conquered, lost. Consumed. Every world we tried to save, we arrived too late. We thought if we could take yours quickly, before they noticed, we might finally stop running. The honesty in her exhaustion hit Maya like a physical blow. You were going to sacrifice us. Yes, Sira admitted. Because we are cowards. Because we are tired. Because we have watched billions die and we cannot do it anymore. James stepped forward. Your weapons, the ones you threatened us with. They don't work against these Devourers, do they? Ziwandar's head lowered. Nothing works. They adapt, consume, evolve. Every weapon we've tried, they've turned against us. That's why you approached with threats instead of requests, Maya said, understanding dawning. You thought if you could dominate us quickly, we wouldn't have time to refuse. You'd save your people and yours, eventually, Ziwandar said desperately. Once we had resources, stability, we planned to evacuate as many humans as possible. We're not monsters. We're just desperate, James finished. He looked at Maya, and she saw her own thoughts reflected in his eyes. Like any species would be. The devourer entity was growing closer, its darkness spreading like ink in water. Already, the outer edges were touching Earth's atmosphere. We should evacuate the cities, Morrison said. Get people underground. It won't matter, Syrah said hollowly. They'll consume the entire planet. Atmosphere, oceans, core. Nothing will remain. Maya pulled away from James, pacing. Her mind raced through everything she'd learned about the aliens' technology, their failures, their desperation. You said they adapt to weapons. What about non-weapons? Kim looked up. What are you thinking? They're ships, you showed us your power systems. They're designed for maximum output, military applications. But what if we inverted that? Used their own energy absorption against them? Ziwandar's shimmer flickered with something like hope. A feedback loop. But you'd need humans, James said, catching on. We're good at improvising. At taking broken things and making them work differently. For a moment, Syrah stared at them. You would help us? After we threatened you? After we admitted we would have sacrificed your world? Maya looked at James, then back at the alien elder. You came here as invaders. But you're really refugees. And we don't turn away people in need, even if they made terrible first impressions. James moved closer, his hand finding Maya's again. In the reflection of the monitors, she could see his expression, pride, affection, determination. Besides, he added, squeezing her fingers gently, we're all in this together now. The darkness outside grew closer. They had hours, maybe less. Then let's get to work, Maya said. Show us everything about your technology. And prepare to see what humans can really do. Bridges built. The next 6 hours blurred together in a frantic symphony of cooperation. The command center transformed into a hybrid workspace where human engineers worked alongside alien technicians, their initial suspicion melting into mutual respect born of necessity. Maya found herself working directly with Ziwandar, translating complex alien technical specifications while Dr. Kim and his team jury-rigged human technology into the alien power systems. Your language has 17 words for energy conversion, but none for hope, Maya observed, looking up from her translation matrix. Ziwandar's shimmer flickered, she'd learned this meant embarrassment. We lost that word 3 worlds ago. After Kresh fell, and the children. He stopped, unable to continue. Maya's hand covered his, an instinctive gesture of comfort despite their species differences. You'll learn it again. We'll teach you. Across the room, James coordinated with military forces from every nation, organizing a defensive perimeter that would buy them time. But Maya caught him glancing at her repeatedly, his expression mixing worry and something deeper. When they finally took a break, he found her in a quiet corner of the facility, staring at a monitor showing the devourer entity. It had grown massive, blotting out stars. Hey, he said softly, offering her a cup of coffee. You okay? I keep thinking, what if we just said yes when they first demanded surrender? Would we all be running by now? Safe. Safe isn't the same as right. James sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. Maya, I need to tell you something. In case this doesn't work. She turned to him, seeing vulnerability in his eyes that he usually kept hidden behind military discipline. I've been in combat zones. Faced impossible situations. But I've never been as terrified as I am right now, not of dying, but of losing the chance to tell you how I feel. His hand cupped her cheek. You're the most remarkable person I've ever met. Your mind, your compassion, the way you see possibilities where others see problems. Maya kissed him. It was soft, urgent, filled with everything words couldn't express. When they parted, she whispered, I know. I feel it too. For a moment, the world narrowed to just them, two people finding connection amid apocalypse. The moment broke when Elder Sira appeared. The modifications are complete. But there's something you should know. Her patterns had brightened slightly. Your Dr. Kim discovered something we missed. The Devourers, they're not evil. They're not even truly alive. They're a failed terraforming system, millennia old, that broke its programming. They consume because that's all they know how to do. So they can be reprogrammed, Maya breathed. If your feedback loop works. If we can stun them long enough to access their core systems. Sira looked between Maya and James. But someone will need to go inside. Into the entity itself. To manually trigger the reset. A suicide mission, James said flatly. Not necessarily. Ziwandar entered, accompanied by Commander Arya. If we time it perfectly, create a controlled collapse of their outer defenses, a small team could enter and exit before the thing eats them, Arya finished. Great plan. I'm in. As am I, Ziwandar said firmly. This is my people's fault. We awakened the Devourer's interest by running through their territory. I should face this. Maya stood. I'm going too. I understand both your technology and theirs better than anyone. No, James said immediately. Maya. Yes. She met his eyes. You know I'm right. And you know you can't stop me. The look that passed between them held entire conversations, fear, love, resignation, pride. Then I'm coming with you, James said. Someone needs to keep you all from getting killed. As they prepared for the mission, Maya and James stole one more moment together. He pulled her close, memorizing the feel of her in his arms. Come back to me, he whispered. Count on it, she promised. We have a lot to talk about when this is over. The Devourer waited, darkness incarnate. But inside it, a light of hope was beginning to grow, forged from the most unlikely alliance in human history. New alliance. The insertion craft was cramped, a hybrid of human and ZYN design that looked like it had been assembled by someone having a fever dream. Maya sat strapped in beside James, Ziwandar across from them, and Arya piloting with an expression of fierce determination. Entering the outer membrane, Arya announced as they plunged into the Devourer entity. The craft shuddered, and outside the viewports, reality itself seemed to writhe. The interior of the Devourer was nothing like Maya expected. Instead of darkness, there was light, but wrong, fractured, like looking through a shattered mirror. Fragments of consumed worlds drifted past, pieces of buildings, forests, oceans frozen mid-wave. Those are memories, Ziwandar whispered, his shimmer pulsing with grief. Everything it's consumed. All those worlds, trapped forever. Not forever, Maya said, pulling up her scanner. There, that's the core. The central processing unit. The craft lurched as something massive moved around them. The Devourer was becoming aware of the intrusion. Hold on. Arya threw the craft into a spiraling dive that would have made any normal pilot black out. They shot through crystalline structures of compressed matter, dodging tendrils of consuming energy. James gripped Maya's hand. Whatever happens. We make it out together, she said firmly. All of us. They reached the core, a sphere of impossible geometry that hurt to look at directly. Arya brought them in close, matching its rotation. I can give you 10 minutes, she said. After that, this whole place is going to know we're here. Maya, James, and Ziwandar scrambled out onto a platform of solidified spacetime. The core pulsed before them, covered in alien symbols that were slowly shifting. It's trying to understand us, Maya realized. It's scanning us like we scanned it. Then let's give it something to think about, James said. He activated the feedback device Dr. Kim had built, a small box that shouldn't have been able to do anything at all, but in this place, with this technology, it began to resonate. The core stuttered. The devourer's consumption faltered. Now, Maya and Ziwandar worked in perfect synchronization, their fingers flying over holographic interfaces, human ingenuity and ZYN technology merging. They weren't destroying the devourer, they were teaching it something new. Teaching it to create instead of consume. The core began to glow differently. Warmer. Almost alive. Then everything went wrong. A massive tendril of energy crashed down, separating them. James was thrown to one side, Maya to the other. Maya! James shouted, struggling against the force holding him. She could see it in his eyes, the fear of losing her, the desperation. And she realized something fundamental. James, trust me, she called. Then, to Ziwandar, the last sequence, you know what to do. Before anyone could stop her, Maya placed her hands directly on the core. The devourer's consciousness flooded into her mind, eons of loneliness, of following broken programming, of consuming because it knew nothing else. She showed it something different, love, hope, connection. She showed it James, showed it the alliance forming between humans and ZYN, showed it that things could change. The core understood. Light exploded outward, and suddenly they were back in the craft, Arya pulling them clear as the devourer began to transform. The darkness receded, replaced by something new, structures forming instead of dissolving, energy building instead of destroying. It's becoming what it was meant to be, Ziwandar said in wonder. A builder. A creator. They emerged from the entity to find the alien fleet and Earth's forces in a defensive formation, ready to fight together despite their differences. President Sarah Morgan's voice came through communications, tell me you have good news. Better than that, James replied, pulling Maya close despite the cramped space. We have a new ally. The devourer, no longer devouring, had become something else. Already it was repairing the damage it had caused, creating new structures, offering technology freely. Back on Earth, the diplomatic summit that followed was historic. Elder Sira addressed both species, her patterns bright with emotion. We came as conquerors because we had forgotten how to be anything else. You reminded us what it means to have hope. To build instead of take. She looked at Maya and James, standing together. You showed us that the strongest force in the universe isn't power, it's the connections we make with each other. In the weeks that followed, Earth and the ZYN Collective began a true partnership. Refugee settlements were established, technology shared, cultures exchanged. The galaxy would never be the same. Maya and James stood on a balcony overlooking Geneva, watching as human and ZYN engineers worked together on reconstruction efforts. His arm was around her waist, her head on his shoulder. So, James said quietly, about that conversation we were going to have. Maya smiled. I love you. That's the conversation. I love you too. He kissed her forehead. Think we can save the galaxy on our next date? She laughed. Let's start smaller. Dinner? Somewhere without alien invasions or apocalyptic scenarios. Deal. Above them, the reformed entity drifted, no longer a devourer but a guardian, watching over the species that had taught it there was more to existence than consumption. And on Earth, humans and aliens worked together, building something new. The galaxy had been on the brink of destruction. Instead, it found hope, in the most unlikely of places, from the most unexpected alliance. And for Maya and James, it was just the beginning of their story. The end.